Something happened behind closed doors, and now panic is setting in at the very top of the Labour Party. On Tuesday, a quiet plan began to unravel, and what started as a reset could become a political disaster. Keir Starmer is in damage control, the backlash is growing, and the stakes, much bigger than anyone expected through the week. And already Keir Starmer is facing a political firestorm that's got even his own supporters looking uneasy. On Tuesday, fresh revelations triggered backlash across the political spectrum. Accusations that Labour is preparing to quietly hand back control to Brussels, all while claiming they're simply resetting relations. At the centre of the storm, reports that Labour has struck a deal with EU officials to introduce a so-called dynamic alignment with European food and agricultural standards. Sounds technical? Here's what it really means. British law would once again fall under the oversight of EU judges, despite the UK voting to leave the European Union nearly 8 years ago. Let that sink in. We are no longer a member of the EU, but under Labour's reported plans, we'd be voluntarily placing large chunks of our trade policy back under the thumb of the European Court of Justice. It's no surprise this has sparked a furious response. Former Brexit negotiator Lord Frost wasted no time calling it what he believes it is: a betrayal. In a sharp statement to The Sun, he warned that Labour is preparing to sell out the country. Again, and he didn't mince words. This move, he said, means that our farmers and food producers will have to live by laws they have no say in, enforced by a foreign court, the absolute opposite of what Brexit means. And he's right to be concerned, because this isn't just about food standards. This is about sovereignty. It's about the ability to make and enforce our own laws in our own country by our own elected representatives. Under Labour's vision, we'd be sacrificing control over a significant part of our economy, one of the very pillars Brexit was supposed to reclaim. And what would we get in return? Nothing that voters were ever asked about. No referendum, no mandate. Just quiet backdoor negotiations dressed up as pragmatism. And speaking of those negotiations, we now know that EU Relations Minister Nick Thomas-Symonds has been in active talks with Brussels. The goal? A so-called reset in UK-EU relations. He's been quick to rule out a return to free movement, no doubt trying to calm fears. But critics aren't buying it, because once you start bending to Brussels on trade laws and legal authority, the rest tends to follow. The panic in Starmer's camp is growing. What they likely hoped would be seen as a sensible compromise is now being interpreted as a dangerous slide backward into EU control. And for voters who supported Brexit, many of whom Labour is now desperate to win back, this is a red flag. It's also a reminder of why so many people felt betrayed by politicians in the first place. For years, the public were told that leaving the EU meant regaining control of our laws, our borders, and our future. But under these new proposals, we'd be right back to following rules we didn't write, enforced by judges we didn't elect. So yes, there's panic inside Labour HQ this Tuesday, because Starmer's carefully crafted narrative of being safe hands on Brexit is starting to unravel. And this latest move might just confirm the very suspicion many voters have had all along. Labour says one thing, but when it comes to Brussels, they'll always bend the knee. More to come as this story unfolds. In other news, Shadow Defence Minister Mark Francois has declared it is not the job of the army to tackle Birmingham's bin crisis, hitting out at the hopelessly mismanaged City Council. The city's overflowing bin crisis has become so severe that crews from neighbouring councils have been brought in to collect waste. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner has also called in the British Army to assist with the crisis, with some being assigned to provide temporary logistical support. However, the strikes are set to continue for even longer after Unite Union rejected the council's partial deal, declaring it inadequate. Speaking to the media, Mark Francois claimed it would be a travesty if the British Army were dragged in to help sort Birmingham's bins. He fumed. On the one hand, you've got an absolutely hopelessly mismanaged bankrupt Labour Council. And on the other side of the dispute, you've got an increasingly militant trade union in Unite, which happens to sponsor Angela Rayner. It would be a travesty if we drag soldiers away from their loved ones over the Easter holidays in order to man bin lorries because Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, can't sort out an industrial dispute being led by the union that sponsors her in the first place. Offering further defence for the army, Francois made clear that it is not their job to get Labour out of trouble, arguing that the move made by Rayner is completely wrong. Francois told the media, "It's not the army's job to get Labour out of trouble. We've used the military in the past. For instance, in 2014, we had a lot of flooding in the West Country. We called in the army and the Marines. I don't think any reasonable person would object to using the military for those sorts of tasks. But using them to dig Labour out of a hole because they're in the middle of an embarrassing industrial dispute, I think would be completely wrong." He added, "It would go down extremely badly with the troops and with their families. That's not what those guys and girls signed up for." Delivering his verdict on further strike action, Francois warned that there could be strikes across the country, akin to the winter of discontent in the 70s. Francois concluded, "They've not ruled out using troops completely, but I think that would be a real mistake if they did that. And it's getting worse because Unite, as I understand it, turned down the latest deal, and they're now threatening to spread the strike to other parts of the country." In 1978 to 79, we had the winter of discontent and a massive upsurge of trade union militancy. We had a national bin strike across the country. For weeks, it was utterly miserable. Even then, Callaghan never called in the army. During that period, the gravediggers went on strike and the dead went unburied. He added, "There are just the first hints of something like the winter of discontent, when another Labour government lost all control of the trade unions. Rayner's passing an employment bill through Parliament that will give the trade unions more power, make it more easy for them to take militant action, and this is a really dangerous cocktail." Finally, Lady Tatiana Mountbatten, second cousin of King Charles III, has given birth to her second child, Oberon. The 34-year-old equestrian and psychotherapist took to Instagram on Sunday to announce the arrival of her baby boy. The royal shared a series of heartwarming photographs of her newborn son. In one sweet image, the newborn is wrapped in a knitted jumper, cloud print beanie, and tiny mittens under a cozy blanket. Another touching photo shows Albie's tiny hand holding one of his mother's fingers. Lady Tatiana revealed that Oberon is a family name from her husband's side, as Alex's father is Oberon Alexander Bernard Drew. The royal shared that March had been the best month of my life as the family spent time in the Hampshire countryside. She wrote, "We've been in the country for a month. Oberon has been really wonderful to look after." What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you've not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you, take care, goodbye.